And tell me what is significant about this.
Well, this is not much of a showing
It's a
for a
lot.
lifetime of hard work, but it's representing ARRL on a roll for DX. DX requires 90% of all of the existing countries that have radio licensed with the International Union, and it's taken a long time to work all those little countries.
What does ARRL stand for?
American Radio Relay League.
What does DXCC stand for?
DX stands for distance, and CC is Century Club, having to work 100 for the first award, but this has taken 90% of probably 400 countries.
How many countries have you worked?
333.
Wow.
Some of those no longer exist. A lot of the countries are changed or divided or renamed.
When did you first start working on this?
About 1938, 37.
What kind of
36.
radio equipment did you have then?
Oh, it was all home built.
What was the wavelength of the antenna that you were using
In
back
those
then?
days, it was mostly 160 meters, which is just above the AM broadcast band.
And where did you have your antenna back then?
Up on top of Dad's house, up to an old cottonwood tree.
And where was this house located?
The first one was on 1200 North and 400 West in Provo. Later we moved to the Springville Road, 1938, and there was a huge big tree. Loved to climb it and put antennas in it, so that's where it all started.
How powerful was your amplifier back then?
Oh, probably 10 or 15 watts.
How many tubes?
Maybe the transmitter, 2 tubes.
2 tubes. Wow.
Uh,
You want to walk?
Parts that were hard to get that were gathered from the things that were thrown out of a radio shop as not good anymore.
And you made them work.
Made some of them work. Scrounged parts, would put 2 radio power supplies together to double the voltage for the transmitter. It was all of about 200 volts DC.
And you build all of this yourself?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was all done that way in those days.
Well, this is... Well, this is a marvelous award that you have.
It's significant of a lot behind the scenes, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of sacrifice on Mother's part to put up with it, and a lot of hard work and really searching.
Could we see what your current transmitter and receiver looks like?
Sure, let's do it.
So we can see what the final countries were, what the equipment was for the final countries. Dad, tell me about this equipment here.
Okay, this is the exciter, the receiver, and a small transmitter. The power is variable, and it can drive a linear amplifier. This is 500 watts. This is the legal limit for amateur radio, which would be 1,000 watts or a peak of 1,500 for single sideband. So if you need lots of power to reach a far distant country, this is the big one.
Okay.
And the antenna is all important. The design and function of the antenna is the secret.
Have you designed your own antennas?
Many times. That seems to be a fascination with science and nature, to learn about it and to try many designs. On the computer I have a modeling program that it's a genius of a tool that allows you to design in the computer an antenna that you dream up, or one that is known, and you can tell pretty well the effectiveness in several ways of that antenna. And I get into trouble with that, Terry. I want to try lots of antennas, and there's a limitation of space and height and all sorts of things, trying to make them fit, but it's fun.
What does the equipment up here do?
Those are antenna matching units. They're merely to
Would you point at them?
match, and this one, to match the impedance of the antenna so that there is a minimum of loss.
Okay.
They fit together like a small diameter hose versus a large diameter water hose.
What is the meter that's in the center at the bottom?
This one?
Mm-hmm.
This measures the output power of this big linear amplifier.
What is the...
Has two scales, one that is the forward power going to the antenna, and the peak shows 1500 maximum, and then there is sometimes, if it doesn't match properly, a little bit of reflected power, and you want to keep that minimum. So by matching the antenna, you can take down the reflected power and peak the output very carefully.
What is the unit to the left on the bottom?
This one?
Mm-hmm.
That's a little very high frequency radio, VHF, that we use in the neighborhood, in the stake. We have about 18 licensed radio amateurs that use a small handheld radio for emergency use in case of a disaster of some sort in the neighborhood.
What is this instrument?
This, there's a motor on top of the tower that turns a directional antenna. And the list here and over here show the direction of that country, and you point it precisely at the country.
Show me the last one that you did.
Well, there are three here that topped the Honor Roll Award at 330, and I now have 333 countries worked. This is a list of all of the countries that are recognized, and there are quite a few there to achieve this award. The ones in red are the only countries I have not worked in the world.
Point at the last country that you worked to achieve the award.
Well, I put the three down here. The third one would be Ethiopia, which I had never talked to. It's a very poor country, and people are not able to afford the blessings we have for a hobby like this in this country. So a small group of Ukrainian amateur radio men were there doing some sort of work, and they had a club station that they used and tried to talk to as many people as they could to put Ethiopia on the... It took me 3 months to finally make contact with them because they had low power, very crude equipment, and on the last day before they went back to the Ukraine, I was able to talk to them.
Approximately what was that date that you made this?
It was about a month ago, like the 25th of March, 26th of March.
2 years ago, did you expect to achieve this award before
No,
you were twinkled?
there were 4 countries to go to achieve the award, and they were so difficult. These countries got harder as they got fewer, and I had almost given up. But 3 or 4 expeditions have taken place, surprisingly, early this year, March, April, May, and some of the countries are very, very rare. The number one most difficult I talked to, because a group of men with probably a little more crazy in the head than I and more money traveled there for a week or 2, busily talk all over the world. And it was very crowded then, with thousands of people that were competing. So you had to have a very good receiver and a good antenna, be very patient, and try a few tricks, and the experience helped. But it paid off. There have been 4 new countries, maybe 5 this year. So it's 3 over the requirement.
Any comments that you have in conclusion?
No, except thank you, Terry, for all your patience in pulling antenna wires. I was promised I would have a broken leg if I got on the roof again, so
Who made you that promise?
my better half.
Well, how do you sign off? What are your call signs, Dad?
W7C like Charlie, U like uniform.
So if you were signing off on a communication, on
Well,
a,
I would need to say this is W7CU. The license is here. It's also on this little plaque.